Rock on. Okay. Bada bing, bada boom. I think we're live, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started, gentlemen. Welcome to Wise Beyond Bitcoin, where you come to learn about the ethical and equitable uses of blockchain technology and learn update about the cryptocurrency world. My name is Lucas.
My name is Ryan.
I'm Jacob.
And happy Monday, happy Moon Day here in Leo in August. Oh, pardon me. Thought the volume was off. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Talk about the infrastructure bill, what's going on in the world, the United States, with the Senate, and I guess moving to the legislation here soon. But all the hullabaloo about regulation and taxation of DeFi, blockchain, miners, validators, stakers, and all that jazz. But before we get on to all that, let's start with a quick little market recap. And is it? What do you say about in the short run markets are irrational, Ryan?
It feels so nice though.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'll take a little irrationality.
I mean, what's funny is that we'll have weeks and weeks of bullish news, of Visa, taking USDC payments on Ethereum, PayPal, MasterCard, countries wanting to use Bitcoin, and you see almost nothing happening to the price. And then you hear all this negative news about all of a sudden the United States government politicians are passing this 2,700 page plus infrastructure bill that really is a very draconian tax on this new emerging market. So right as that's going on, and look, and you see that the bulls appear to be in, at least right now, it's definitely getting strong support in the crypto
market. Counterintuitive too, right? If you consider markets to be perfect discounters of the future.
Well, I think it's actually bullish news for crypto, because it shows that U.S. regulators understand that cryptocurrency is a threat to their centralized power.
That's one read, yeah. Yeah.
Would you say maybe not even just not to say a threat, but that it's actually a viable technology, and so that's why it needs to have more hands in the pie, because it's not going to go around.
To that point, I heard somebody say something interesting. They said that look at how much crypto's grown just over the last few years, that it's now this tiny little market, this little segment of the market is able to hold up the infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
Debating about how to deal with this one little tiny sliver of the market, in terms of overall value and get capital market cap. It's not it's not as big as any of the other markets or even close. But yet it's holding up the infrastructure bill. So it's definitely growing in importance.
Oh yeah, and it's growing in community too.
Sure. Well, not only in importance, you're right, and as you mentioned that, I mean, such a small sliver of the market, the economy, and yet it's being spoken about by people in the highest positions of political power around the world. I mean, as far as using it in their market and adopting it as a part of their infrastructure. So
right, you have central banks all over the world talking about rolling out their own central bank stable coins,
or the IMF
using the blockchain,
talking about whether or not it does or doesn't support nations adopting it as a reserve currency, but it's even a topic of conversation. There's not been another commodity or asset or technology where this liberal conversation has even existed. Where has it been so liberal where people could even talk about these innovative ideas, these different ways of growing the financial market, the financial economy in light of this new tech?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So our quick, what are the biggest gainers today at the moment? Every week we like to check out who are the biggest gainers, the biggest losers, which, the biggest losers, there really aren't too many big losers in a market this bullish. As you scroll down, it immediately starts going green. So that's when it's just a very, very, what is it? Unabashed.
Risk on sentiment is strong.
Yeah. Risk on sentiment is strong. And look at this. I don't know much about Aria 20. So that being up 3,000%, I wouldn't
I would not touch that.
No. Ravencoin, I don't. It's been around for a while. I've been a supporter in the past, although I don't know much about what's going on. You know what I will say? Litecoins jump up. I do feel that amidst all of this regulation bill, what's going on, I think there's going to be a huge place for proof of work transaction coins in the future. I think that there's all this attention being given to smart contracts, which are huge, and NFTs, which are huge. I do believe absolutely, but there's still a role for these proof of work chains that operate on a different security level. But we'll see. Harmony One. I'm happy to see that.
I'm so happy.
I
love the just the community with Harmony, all the things that they're doing, from NFTs, building out their platform, building out interoperability. There's so much.
And they're their own chain. And Harmony One, unlike Ethereum forks, Harmony One is its own chain that is done so far, continues to do extremely well. And there are some others. I mean, what an exciting time. I really feel that the sooner you jump in and you start learning about these, you can get a basket of Easter eggs, so to speak. There's a lot of communities that will be around. When you go into a mall or a department store, or you look at different cars or televisions or whatever, bread, there's different brands. There are different styles. And I do feel that there's room with this in blockchain. Absolutely, right now, when we see how fragile and not fragile, how limited the communities are. I mean, how many transactions per second can be sustained? How many people can actually be on a network before it clogs up the network and it slows it down and it makes gas fees, extremely expensive. So there's room for many chains, those who actually build a working ecosystem that functions and it does what it does, and it's good at what it does. I feel they can patch up, they can layer, they can improve. That's what we're seeing develop. And that's why I think it's better than sitting on the sidelines and waiting. It's better to jump in and be involved in a few of these, in as many as you can. That's not financial advice. That's just my perspective from an educational point of view. You don't learn until you're really in it. It's the best way to learn is to get involved and to make mistakes and to figure out how to work these things, these projects. But yeah,
Chili's, I would say the NFT space has done pretty well. Chili's and CocoSwap and Engine Coin are all having a good day.
And actually, Avalanche. On that note, Avalanche just passed some news on NFTs being supported on its network. So I think you're right. A lot of this is on NFT news. Very cool.
I looked into CocoSwap because I didn't know what they were about, and that's an NFT platform that also brings DeFi, lending, staking, operability, as well as NFT gaming. So there's a lot going on with CocoSwap, and I think that's maybe something to watch.
Well, and Jacob was talking about this before, and we know that Wise Token is working on a cool project in regards to this, and as well as many others will too. But there's so much value. CryptoPunks, NFTs. There's a lot of value in NFTs out there, but it's kind of an untapped asset value in the digital economy. And that's why you're seeing all these projects emerge where you can take NFTs and you can use them for collateral. You can lend on them. You can swap with others and create exchanges. So let's take a quick look at, why not take a look right now? This is pretty new. I'm pretty sure this has just been created fairly recently. A company with the same name from Malaysia. All right, let's see. Combines NFT space and blockchain gaming with decentralized finance and staking. Allows users to invest, trade, earn, stake, and play games in one place. So that's it. cocoswap.org. And there you go. You can on Uniswap, while it still exists, a decentralized exchange. We'll get to that later. But right now, anyone with a MetaMask wallet can partake in this new ecosystem. And yeah, that's it. CocoSwap, if you're interested in games and NFTs and staking, and they don't do lending yet. No, not at the moment. NFT trades, I don't think so. But
no, it look like it.
Looks pretty interesting, and it is absolutely new. So enter, like all projects, enter at your own risk. But
do your research.
Do your research for sure. This is not considered research or financial information. Yeah, but it's a good day for market, and it's despite the fact that what we're going to move on to next is what's going on in the news. What's going on in the news?
The legal side.
You know,
it's always important to talk about.
Oh yeah.
What?
But before we touch on that,
yeah,
this was a good article about suggesting that as Delta COVID starts to taper off, there's some kind of model referenced in the article predicting that new COVID cases and will be starting to level off by the fall, and that we should see a return to like a rally in the stock market and in the crypto markets, and it's expected that Bitcoin could potentially hit 100,000. They're calling this the everything rally.
Wow.
So, and this is sort of the narrative that I've been.
And this is coming from a CNBC analyst. We're not talking about some fringe crypto,
right.
Media group.
It's so mind-boggling to me because like hitting 60K was a big mark for us,
Yeah. Well, it was a high water mark for sure.
Now this is
20, just like 20 was.
This is interesting because, and we haven't. This is still just a possibility. We don't know what will happen. However, a lot of the sentiment was, oh man, the next round of COVID could be bad, could be worse, and it could be another shutdown. It could make the market even worse and worse, horrible. However, the vaccines have been rolled out all over the world. There's been such huge worldwide support of rolling out vaccines, and actually many people are getting multiple rounds of vaccines, not just one. I think that this is what a positive turnaround. What a great narrative that the companies, the vaccines are doing what they're supposed to do, and it's staving off and it's keeping people able to function and be around each other and work and love and live life. And with that being said, the markets to grow and for things to start happening again, which means instead of a doom and gloom scenario,
it's very optimistic. Yeah.
At least for now, it does paint a picture of optimism for the time being.
We'd love to start on an optimistic footing. I think that's why we selected.
Yeah, let's start talking about the possibility that Bitcoin has to shoot to 100,000 in this beautiful everything rally, while the money just goes up and up and up. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, your local senators, legislators, your local government, actually U.S. Senate. Now, this first article we have up, it talks about the Senate rejecting an amendment to exclude certain Bitcoin entities from a broker designation. You want to go into this a little bit?
Sure, go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah. So basically, I love the way you put it. It's like trying to do surgery with a butcher knife. The language is so broad. It categorizes everyone as from developers, decentralized autonomous organizations, miners, stakers. If you use cryptocurrency, even peer-to-peer transactions, you are considered a broker with the language of this bill. And you are an unlicensed, unregistered broker at that. You have to fill out a 1099 form, and for some of these DAOs, it's literally impossible for them to do because of the nature of decentralization.
Yeah.
So there was an amendment proposed by Toomey and Loomis.
Toomey Loomis, yeah. Warner, Portman, and Cinema.
There's a series of amendments. I think they're all kind of being classified under the one heading, but they were all aimed at diminishing or reining in this definition of broker, so it's more targeted, right? Instead of encompassing software makers and wallet makers and nodes and validators and pretty much anybody who had ever even looked at a unit of cryptocurrency, they were attempting to narrow the range to just the actual brokerages, the ones that really are providing a platform for people to get in and out of crypto, right? So these amendments would have excluded, miners, Bitcoin, say, miners, or validators on the Ethereum network, or nodes on a network, or wallet makers was the other, or protocol developers like devs on DeFi protocols. So this was an attempt to exclude these people from the kind of brokerage reporting requirements that Coinbase or other entities would be more suited for, I guess, because you don't really, like, as to Jacob's point, if the original bill was to go through and become law without these amendments or something similar, then what we're essentially doing is creating a standard, a reporting requirement standard that applies to everybody across the board that is largely impossible to meet for many of these entities, like the nodes, the validators, the miners. They would not. There's no way they could meet this standard. They lack the information. This gets back to Hayek's idea, but it even goes even deeper, because it's like the people who wrote this bill have no clue about how these systems work, and what kind of information
I don't think they do.
Miner would have, or someone Ledger. Think about Ledger or Trezor. When they sell a Trezor wallet to somebody, the requirement now is that they're supposed to know who that person is, and to fill out detailed financial information about their investments and their buys and sells. And it's like Trezor has no window to that. So they're asking an impossible task. And so the defeat, and so that brings us to this article. These amendments have been defeated. The rationality that you might have hoped would have been attached to this bill will not be attached to this bill thus far. We'll see what the final bill turns out to be. But at this moment, the hope that we were going to rein this in and limit the definition seems to be dashed.
Something else I'd like to speak on too is I would like to speak on the fact that they introduced this crypto legislation in a must-pass infrastructure bill the day before they decided to vote on it. This goes to show the power this space has, this decentralized space. Decentralization, I believe, is going to be the future.
Well, you know that meme of the guy walking with his girlfriend and looking over his shoulder at the other girl?
Yeah.
That's what's going on here. You got the regulators and the planners and the politicians are seeing a massive market cap just emerge out of the ether, and they're like, well, wait a minute, we want to tax that. We want some of that too. We want some of those. We want to be benefited by being able to tax this new value that's sprung up, and I really think it's just pure envy.
And it's ignorance. Because
married with ignorance.
Because you have to go into talk about its intention was to clarify language that could potentially target anyone facilitating a transaction on behalf of someone else, or like you were saying, validators, nodes, stake. A lot of what they're asking is impossible, and it's because it shows a lack of understanding of how this technology works and what it's doing.
Yeah.
Calling people brokers just so that you can put them in a category to extract value and money from the service they provide is missing the point that these validators and these miners are actually driving your armored vehicle from one place to another. They're actually helping keep the money safe. They're keeping the network secure. They're actually providing a function for everyone to use. And that's not something that a broker does when you're just brokering a transaction in the financial market. It's not fair. I say it's not accurate to try to put these new I don't want to say variables, but these new jobs, these new
this role they're playing.
These new roles, that's the best way to put these new roles into old titles. You can't call someone who's driving a car a horse
stagecoach.
A stagecoach operator.
Right.
You know,
it's true. They're not the same.
It's not the same.
But there's a profound element of unrealism, if that's appropriate grammar, that's going on in this story, right? So they're hoping to raise $28 billion over the next 10 years, and these new regulations and reporting requirements are going to be the pathway to do that. Now, here's where it's unrealistic. It's a static view, and it kind of falls prey to that Lucas critique that we were talking about a few days ago. And I'll go into that in a minute if people aren't clear on what that means. But here's why it's a static view. If they truly make it make all these roles, the validators, the nodes, the miners, if they make all these people subject to this regulation, this reporting requirement, it's going to drastically raise the cost of doing those behaviors, and there's going to be a reaction to that because things aren't static. People don't just continue doing the same thing if the cost has been increased or if the benefit of doing it is reduced. They will go do something else. And what these miners and validators and developers and other people, what the ecosystem will do is they'll find other ways to make money. They'll find another place to play, another thing to work on.
Or they'll
do both, right? They'll do that, but the point is there'll be diminished investment and diminished innovation. And what that ultimately means is that the government's ability to tax that 28 billion over that 10-year span is not going to be realistic, because the value they're thinking, okay, there's 28 billion dollars if prices today, if we were to get a certain tax rate at prices today. But prices today will change if this all goes through. There'll be fewer people operating these networks. The prices will fall, could potentially drastically fall.
Oh, and they'll definitely shift the actors from being a decentralized network to being these firms, these companies that will now make sure that the network is stable.
But what's going to happen to the people who are buying these assets that believe in it because they're into it for privacy or other reasons or revolutionary reasons, right? Or evolutionary reasons.
Fill out a form or get lost.
It's going to dampen the enthusiasm across the board for people operating the networks, people buying the tokens and the coins. Just the whole space is going to let the air out of it. So now, who knows what it could be in the future if it becomes institutionalized and it becomes CeFi on a blockchain. Then there could be, in a few years, prices could get returned. But in my mind, the whole value proposition of this space is threatened by these kinds of regulations. And if that's truly the case, then they're not going to be able to get $28 billion because that value is predicated on a network that's largely free. Mm-hmm. And if you change that and make it unfree and just another CeFi sandbox, then the value is going to just fall through your fingers like sand, mm-hmm. and it's going to disappear into the ether. So it's the idea that you can set tax. Another way to think of this is the Phillips curve. You can set tax rates high enough that you actually get less revenue.
Sure.
Right? Well, I'm thinking that same kind of criticism is applicable here. They're expecting to get 28 billion, but if this was really to become law, the whole market cap of the space might not be 28 billion. Let alone their tax revenue would be a fraction of that. You know.
Absolutely.
So, that's my hunch.
And leading the charge against cryptocurrency innovation, and I guess a proponent of a lot of these bills and these that are being passed is Janet Yellen. What would you say about her as just a woman and another sister of creation on this plane, and just learning about how the world works and trying to make the world a better place before we leave? What do you think? Does she have any bias in her role, in her job? What would you say about her position, where she comes from?
Well, there's definitely a conflict of interest. But and we can get into that. But before we jump into that part, I want to just say one thing. This is a person who spent their entire life largely in academia, publishing high-level theoretical papers in monetary theory, and then she was an academic, and then became a head of the Federal Reserve, and then became a Treasury Secretary. This is all to say, her expertise is not in digital money.
Not at all.
It's in the old form. She's an expert in horse and buggy economics or finance, and we're in the age of cars, right? Mm. So for her, put aside the conflict of interest, she just does. There's no reason to expect her to understand this the way, say, like we would, right? Because we haven't. For one reason, the time that she spent studying monetary theory and traditional economics is time she didn't spend studying blockchain,
reading white papers,
or reading white papers, or any of the above, or even reading an Austrian approach to economics, which might prime her for understanding this better, right? So basically, I'm just saying that her background mitigates against her even understanding it. And then you can get into the conflict of interest, the fact that she made $7 million last year giving speeches to banks, whereas she only made $200,000 as a Treasury Secretary. So clearly, she's got a financial interest in serving the old guard. And then there's the ego thing, like what Lucas likes to bring up. She's part of an institution that would lose a lot of its prestige and purpose in a blockchain dominant world. So, or
we don't need as many. We don't need all the money managers in a blockchain world. We don't need people to protect us from people. Which not. I'm not saying I don't know anything about not her, of course, but other people in positions of power who may not act in the best interests of others. I mean, the point is this is a technology that removes that need. We no longer need to have a small group of people making decisions that influence huge populations of the world when it comes to the tool that we call money. It's huge. I mean, the tool that we call money that creates prices, that communicates the capital creation, building, savings. I mean, all the things that people do, and they're from home economics to their balancing their checkbooks to large scale developments, even to projects that are being built through government funded programs. It's still all done through the pricing mechanism that we enjoy through these market exchanges and transactions. I'm going kind of on a tangent.
In this, from Yellen in this article, I'll read one that stands out. She says, "I fear it's often for illicit finance." Speaking about crypto, and I think that's funny because where has she been? I mean, the days of Silk Road and the dark web being the main home or use for crypto, that's like a long ways in the past. And you've got mainstream financial institutions have been pouring their investment into the space. So for her to say it's often for illicit finance, that's actually just ignorant. You'd reverse that. You'd say it's often for illicit finance, and only very rarely is it used for illicit finance.
True.
And then so that's just one thing that's wrong. And then the part about the energy use, it's like, okay, it uses half the energy that the fiat banking system uses. So I mean, I really don't understand what her point is.
And to that, she's supposed to have a background in economics, but come on, brother. If you have a background in economics, you got to have love for the opportunity cost in life. You can't just talk about outright accounted expenses. Right. And so she, of all people, should appreciate all the value gained, the efficiency gains in accounting for all that's no longer needed to be, and not just look at the explicit costs, because there are a whole host of costs.
She's not in the habit of seeing any utility other than illicit utility.
But that's, like you said, this is
ridiculous.
Now, I like the point you brought up earlier. This is not about Yellen. This is about not about anyone personal. It's just understanding people and how we are good at something. You can't expect a professional baseball player, right, to be the best and the most knowledgeable at 3 or 4 or 5 other fields at the same time while he's working his whole life through spring training and this season and that season. Meanwhile, someone else has spent their whole life playing chess game after chess game after chess game. Someone might be really gifted at chess, but just I would say very rare if you would say someone who is both an all-star Major League Baseball athlete and a grandmaster chess player. And if you do find that person, I'm sure you'd find them playing chess at the same time on weekends when they're not playing baseball. You're going to find someone who's just spending a lot of their time. The point is, we all grow in our understanding and our wisdom through experience and spending time in something, and to be is good at what she is and where she's at means she had to spend a lot of time in that traditional market, in that fiat centered, in that mindset, in that model. So to expect her over the last 10 years while blockchain's developing and we're all learning and figuring out, ooh, the ICO craze, ooh, this is what's going on, ooh, stable coins, ooh, smart contract interoperability, ooh, we're all learning DeFi, decentralized exchanges, as we're all learning about how this works in its emerging system together as it's new, and we're all a part of helping it grow and taking the lumps and bruises along the way. She's meeting with high profile people in banking sector. She has a speech to prepare for. She's got her actual job as a treasury secretary, or as in charge of the Fed. So to expect her to be competent in blockchain is is
asking too much.
is asking too much. So really, whatever she says is just going to be kind of like.
Why don't we ask her to be dead sexy as well? Right? As long as we're asking for infinite ability, why don't we say, well, you should be beautiful too? Right?
Well, beautiful abuse on the beholder. I'm not saying, what I'm going to say is that, and she's, she's a silver fox. She got. I'm not going to say, but yeah.
No hate on yelling.
She got
But
this.
I'd like to just make the point that you can only ask so much of somebody,
right?
Right.
But then you look beyond that and say, okay, but what is that conflict of interest? Then you look at the money that she's literally getting paid by the people working for those institutions that stand to lose the most. The reality is that if you're working in the banking sector, you in a way stand to lose the most because it's your job or industry that is soon to be displaced by this new technology. And the more laws that can be passed to categorize people with your terminology will help you stay alive longer. I think that's kind of what it is. If we can call people brokers, then now we can patchwork all of our broker licenses and broker right onto that. It's like
copy paste.
It's like, you guys, this isn't a brokerage. Has nothing to do with brokers. That's not how this works. That you're gonna have to actually use the word validator, use the word staking, and define it like everyone else has to. It's a new technology, so you have to learn the new words like everybody else. You can't just
and then be honest about the differences.
Be honest about the differences. Absolutely.
I also think we should give credit or give credit where credit is due. Senator Wyden actually, in a 1996 speech, he actually argues for a hands-off market approach for cryptography, and that is super interesting because it shows his consistency in this space with the Wyden-Toomey amendment, and I just want to commend him for that.
That is cool. Yeah, because consistency is a rare thing in politics, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's good to have proponents of this is a technology that, regardless of what side of the political aisle one is from, when you understand how this new technology works, it's like Prometheus learning fire. This is something that can help bring warmth to the world. You see this technology and understand it for what it is, then this goes beyond politics. This is something that can bring really. The meek shall inherit the earth. In a way, this can help provide new resources and means to people that were often displaced in traditional financial markets and systems. I mean, that's the banking,
sure.
the banking, the unbanked, and actually,
it's also a hedge. It's a great hedge against uncertainty, political uncertainty, economic uncertainty.
That's a good point you say that, and that's another I was going to bring up. We talk about all these infrastructure bills, and I would say that if you're involved in cryptocurrency and you're whether or not you're a U.S. citizen around the world, recognize that if you speak English and you understand what's happening and you can get on your email or phone and contact these senators and legislators, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to I guess reach out and say something, because this is something that's going to affect people all over the world. What goes on in the United States, those legal edicts that get passed down are actually enforced, and they get spread out to many other countries that they trade with and have deals with and agreements with. So this wording and this new way of looking at crypto is more important than just for the U.S. This is going to have ramifications that go to other national political jurisdictions that associate with the U.S. That's for sure.
Well, we should we should talk about that Ted Cruz statement where he says that crypto got screwed regarding the amendments that were rejected. The reason I'd like to highlight this is because if you scroll down after it explains the amendments, which we've just talked about, it talks about a new amendment, and there's not too many details, but there's a new amendment that does constrain the definition of a broker to exclude developers and validators and hardware, software, wallet makers, and it's apparently it's on the docket. It's being discussed. So there's the initial amendments have been rejected, but there's this new amendment, and we'll see how that goes. I couldn't find any more details on this, but it's a recent article. So
well, it's probably just now in the works, and all of this is very fresh.
Yeah, very much.
For sure.
It's a fluid situation. So things could be changing as soon as we're done with our live stream.
But regardless of Yellen or Cruz, isn't it interesting, Loomis? All of these politicians are now passing a 2,700 page bill. I feel that if you're U.S. citizens around the nation, around the world, should be writing letters and should be a little outraged and a little feel swindled. I mean, think about this. Where's the media and where have your politicians covered and represented any knowledge of cryptocurrency or blockchain for the last Did they talk about it all during the last presidential election?
No.
Did they give it serious time on how they wanted to allow people? So yet no one's talking about this in presidential elections. You're not hearing politicians come out and explain to their congregate, their communities, what their take is and why on this new technology and how they want to use it to help support their community, make the world a better place. And yet all of a sudden, when most of the population still doesn't know what cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or Ethereum is, there's a 2,700 plus page bill being passed that's going to tell people how it's to be taxed, regulated, and monitored. I feel that if anything other than lack of transparency, whether or not you're left or right side of the aisle, people should be reaching out and asking to put a halt. Just a halt. Just like literally just put a halt on any of the bills. Like literally let the car market continue to develop cars and let airplanes continue to make airplanes while we figure out how aviation and how these...
And I'd also say, if you want to do an infrastructure bill, do an infrastructure bill. But don't try to wrap regulating a whole new financial industry into it just because you see some money that you want to get your hands on, right? Like that's not a good reason to disrupt innovation. And if you don't tread carefully on how you do this, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be disruptive of an innovative technology, and nobody really wants that. Even the people who are planning these amendments, they don't want that. They have in their mind this technology continues to grow because they want to tax it in the future.
And it won't if you destroy it like that. You're saying defeating the whole purpose. You're truly
the golden goose.
Truly defeating the irony is that you have people that are so used to being in these positions of power and authority and finding any way to extract out of something that has wealth. They'll recognize that doing that in this industry is actually taking away the value cause, the value proposition. You're actually removing the value proposition from the whole thing.
And this is what we talked about earlier. You get rid of privacy and decentralization, then you're just left with this panopticon financial system controlled by the elite, where they can see every transaction, and nobody gets away from any. You won't even buy a cup of coffee without paying the IRS.
It truly becomes the most Orwellian technology that people could never have dreamed of, if not.
Literally, we would walk away.
Imagine if your political stance would get your bank turned off because you tweeted the wrong thing. You
Right.
said the wrong thing.
And that's a potential thing. That's wholly potential.
And that's not opposed to what people working in governments would like to have happen.
No, that's all about it. They want credit. They want social credit.
It's already going in. It's already going in parts of the already existing in parts of the world. So yeah, it's easy to see. Once you understand how the technology works, it's like, oh, okay, easy. I see how a car works. I can see them building a bus. You know.
Yeah. Or even to speak more on your point about how a car works, you can build a bus. One thing I'd like to bring up is how we already have DAOs. We've already used decentralized voting. What happens when people decide they're tired of government overreach and they decide to have a decentralized nation of people across the world?
Right. And then you've lost your jurisdictional control to tax anything.
And that's where I was wondering, looking at this technology, which is built upon, predicated on worldwide networks. That's literally what these are all built on. So I feel that a more rational approach to taxing and regulating would be in the CeFi sectors, Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken.
Yes.
Where
the fiat on-ramps and off-ramps.
The fiat on-ramps, it should regulate them for what they should hold and what they're allowed, and it should offer some kind of protection like the FDIC for those people that involved in those projects. Now, if you get involved in a new project outside of the approved,
that's on you.
That's on you, and you're taking a risk. But that way, people can allow progress in this new market that still is little understood and can't even be understood because it's still growing. Like, how can you understand an oak tree when the very first seedling is growing right in front of you? So you've got no other saplings to look at. You've got no other acorns to look at. You're literally looking at these saplings right in front of you for the first time. And people are trying to regulate oak trees and how oak should develop. It's like, whoa, easy peasy.
And to your point, they're asking for $28 billion and they're not offering anything. They're not offering FDIC. They're not offering any kind of due diligence.
Yep.
Any kind of approved projects or anything. They're saying, "Give me money, you get nothing."
Yeah, that brings me, to the U.S. Ethos of taxation without representation. That's another reason I think people should absolutely call their senators and legislators and say, hold on, halt, stop the presses, slow down a bit. And let's talk about this next term. Let a few more years of this market develop, and I want to hear the next presidential election talk about Bitcoin and crypto. I would like to see this be a conversation in schools, so it can be an informed and educated decision that we make.
Not jump the gun.
Not just be like, all right, this is what do we do next? How does it work?
Yeah. That's a good point.
But.
Well, on to the next topic.
On to the next one.
This is a cool story about the reverse split.
What is that about? Talk to me.
Okay, well, we all know about stock split. I don't know if we do. So a stock split is when a share of stock is split from 1 to 2, and it's now worth, the half of each one's worth half of what it was before. And so if you have 10 shares, now you have 20.
Whoa, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So this is the inverse of a stock split. This is a reverse split where I believe it's 100,000 to 1 is the way the split works. So if you have 100,000 of unit down or LTCD Litecoin down, then you're going to have 1 of this new token, and so it's deflating the supply, but then it's going to also credit the other side so that you're neutral in your position, right? So the value of that 1 is going to be the equivalent of 100,000 before. So you're theoretically won't be losing up your position at all. It's just changing its format, if that makes sense.
Not only does it make sense, what's cool about this is it just goes to show what can be done in this new ecosystem. Whether you do a stock split or a reverse split, it shows that you've got the same malleability, if you will, when it comes to working with tokens as people do with, stocks and in traditional finance.
No, it's interesting. what assets they're talking about here. This is Unidown and Litecoin down. These are tokens linked to Litecoin and Uniswap
on the Binance Smart Chain.
On the Binance Smart Chain, and they trade inverse to the underlying asset, kind of like synthetics had those inverse synthetic assets.
So these are derivative. These are derivative tokens, basically, obviously, on a fork of Ethereum. So if you want to know about the definition of risk in cryptocurrency, this is risk upon risk upon risk. I mean, it's not like just hodling. We're beyond hodling Bitcoin. We're talking about reverse splits on the Binance Smart Chain on their Uniswap Litecoin tokens. So I'm not sure the tokenomics of those. But yeah, it's neat what can be done on these chains regardless. It just goes to show what can be done on these chains. Now, what's cool about Binance, you know what? That brings up a good point. A lot of people critique Binance Smart Chain with being centralized or other chains with being centralized. But right now, what would be able to get done on a chain without different centralized chains having people make decisions to go different roads? Like, it actually allows... I'm for decentralization, mind you. I'm for decentralization. But if you want to figure out early on what things will work and be able to make decisions with a chain and operate and experiment with it, having the ability to make decisions like this in the beginning with a promise to decentralize or like, I guess, like Polkadot has Kusama, having a test network to be able to roll out features.
Or some governance tokens so you can crowdsource the decision making.
Yeah, there's that,
but then that introduces the problem though, because you have too many Indians, not enough chiefs.
Yeah, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, and yeah, that's what it is. And the thing is that not many people can be expected to know as much on a bottom level as people who are really, really high up in cryptography and blockchain. Right. It would be really in it. So
not all opinions are equal.
Yeah, no, not at all. So I think having a chain or chains that allow for this kind of centralized decision-making power to roll out features and to produce functions, because these splits that you see done on Binance Smart Chain, well, now you can roll out a vote and have that done on another chain, because we know that splits or reverse splits can be done through the smart contract protocol. Right. And that's what's cool about all this. It's proof of concept. That's what I was getting to. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, long and short. How do you measure relative? This is a great article, Ryan.
This is a fun article.
All right. Yeah. Well, why don't you get into this a bit? What do you find on it?
All right. Yeah. So, in traditional markets, say the stock market, you typically don't just look at price to determine value in terms of like relative value, how cheap something is relative to others. You look at price as a function of earnings, or price as a function of book value, which is like your assets if you had to repurchase them. And so there's these metrics. There's different metrics which kind of contextualize price, because price on its own is not enough. And the question is this article kind of addresses the question of, well, how do you apply that to crypto, right? Because there's not most crypto projects don't have revenue streams. Now the ones that do, like DeFi, that's a staking projects, you look at interest, right? You see that's one, and it gets into that. You can look at the amount of interest that it's earned. And with Bitcoin, there's stock to flow ratios, there's different price ratios to hash rates. And this article goes through some of these different metrics and talks about the limitations and the benefits of this over that. And then it gets into some new metrics that have been created. And these are essentially based on a point system, where there's points tallied for development activity, for forks, followers, and various other variables, and then you add up the points, and you can see from that like a value story, right? And at the end of all this, it kind of talks about how Dash and Bitcoin and ETH kind of have at the top of the list in terms of value, being cheap relative to their value, and under these different metrics. So yeah, all in all, if you wanted kind of an introductory article on valuations and price earnings ratios and how to apply that kind of thinking to crypto, this is a good place to start.
Yeah, we'll definitely link this in below in the description after we post this stream. Give us a little bit of time, but we'll have all these articles listed below. This is a great article to start kind of figuring out to wrap your mind around pricing and creating understanding value of crypto compared to how we price and understand the value in traditional assets and stocks. So I dig it. Very good find. Moving on along. Speaking of metrics, how about some Ecoinometrics and diminishing returns?
Yeah, I'll just run through this real fast because it's really just one point.
Yep.
So the idea is the idea here, the claim that this article is addressing, is that as Bitcoin develops and gets its market cap grows, gets close to $1 trillion, that the time it will take for it to double is going to be longer because of this idea of diminishing returns. And diminishing returns is an economic concept. Basically says that as something grows, that the longer it's going to take more time for it to grow at the same rate. Like it won't grow at the same rate. Essentially, as
the more you put into it, the returns you get become less diminished. Right. Can I love it. I just want to real quick to point to people out to what you're saying to give people a visual of what you're talking about. I went back to the market caps, and what that's saying is that when you see a market cap of $867 billion, what they're saying is it's going to take longer for that to double because it's so big than it would be if you go down over here to something that's only $6 billion. That'll double sooner. And that's basically what people say. They're saying that Bitcoin, the intuition is saying that, Bitcoin's so big, that's going to take longer to double than something down here. However, and that's what this article is getting to.
And this article shows that's not true.
Right. That's what we're talking about. That's not true. And you're going.
So why is it not true? And the main reason it's not true is this concept of diminishing returns is based on a all else equal framework where you just increase one variable and note the effect. Whereas in reality, there's a lot of things changing that could change for Bitcoin, which makes its value grow faster than it did in the past, right? And so network effects are a great example. As the network grows, the value of being a part of the network grows. So for that reason, you could see the growth rate continue or even increase, right, as people perceive more and more value. And then the other side of this is this idea of price reflexivity. This is the idea that prices don't always exhibit equilibrium tendencies. So an equilibrium path would be price goes up, people then realize that, okay, that's not sustainable. So different, or they produce more, say price goes up on a commodity, so people incentivizes people to produce more, supply increases, and then the price response goes down into an equilibrium, right? Where the opposite of this story is people see a price going up, and they think, well, that thing's going up, it's going to go up again further in the future, I better buy it now. And so they FOMO into it, and then them getting into it pushes the price up even further. So it becomes like this self-fulfilling prophecy. And then that encourages other people. Well, wow, look at that price go up. We should buy that. And then so you can get this reflexive bootstrapping effect of prices where they kind of signal people to get in, and it kind of becomes almost irrational. But the point being is that prices can move. It can move because of these underlying changes that might not be captured by this idea of diminishing returns. And that's because it's a static, ceteris paribus, all else equal kind of a thought experiment.
I dig it. Here's an example. It took about the same time for Bitcoin to go from 64 billion to 128 billion as it did to go from 512 to 1 trillion. So what it's stating is that you can find these huge doublings in the same amount of time, if not less time than you saw before. That's the big takeaway. And reasons why these things happen is because, like you said, we don't live in a ceteris paribus market where all things are equal. We're actually living in a dynamic ecosystem where every day, innovations are being made on chains, blockchain protocols all over the world. That being said, you want to take us down a wormhole?
Okay, yes. So this is a cool development. Let me find the article up. Okay, yes. So Solana is opening up a portal to routing non-native assets into their ecosystem. So this would be assets that were part of Binance Smart Chain, Terra, Ethereum. They're all going to be able to be brought onto Solana through this wormhole and then traded and staked, and there's going to be cross-chain liquidity. there are all kinds of. There's going to be a bridge, and there's going to be communication between these networks through Solana.
So this is huge. Solana is one of the great projects, one of the many great projects out there, and it's beautiful. You know what you're finding? Ethereum is having pressure release valves on a lot of different chains. That's what's going on. You're having NFTs and ERC20 tokens being able to move to Polygon and operate there, being able to move to Binance Smart Chain, move to Pulse Chain here soon. Those are just the forks of Ethereum, which I'm sure more will come out. But you also have things like Harmony One and Solana and Polkadot and Cardano, which are other chains with interoperability and being able to take these Ethereum or in this case, well, now let's see. Ethereum, I don't know about Terra. I don't think Terra is a fork, but Binance Smart Chain Ethereum would be similar coding, I think, for Solana to adopt. But it's beautiful that you're seeing the value. Solana, these other protocols, they're not having to start from scratch. They literally can say, hey, if you want to start bringing some of your NFTs and your tokens and your community to exchange and to trade and to move over here, we might have heightened security, faster transaction times, lower fees on our network. And this is where we get this beautiful ecosystem of finding out what is going to work. And
it's a story of interoperable second layers.
Yeah. All right, that's a good bullish. That's good news on Solana. More good news. We've talked about Tether in the past, talking about stable coins, and let's use this article again to talk about a quick, hilarious comparison between traditional markets and what's expected in their reserves versus the standard that's being held to the cryptocurrency protocols. Like, if we were to apply the same standard to the banking system that exists right now, well,
yeah, because this article is great because it shows what assets Tether is holding for collateral against their digital stablecoin, and it's largely very, very secure, rated A2 and above commercial paper, which is loans that are essentially bonds, that are from private companies, right? And it says here that their assets are 62.8 billion, and their liabilities are the circulating supply of Tether is 62.7 billion. So there's a tenth of $1 billion in assets that they have more than they have in liabilities. So they're what you would say that's overcapitalized. They're not fully loaned up. If they were a bank, they wouldn't be fully loaned up. There would be an increment of money that they would be sitting on that would just be extra. And we know that doesn't tend to happen, right?
Well, 2008 bank bailouts and just look at historical booms and bust cycles in fiat and traditional finance, but it's built on fractional reserve banking. It's built on not having the collateral needed to pyramid loan upon loan. So to look,
1-to-1, right?
Right. So to look at something that's virtually that's over collateralized or capitalized, this should breed confidence in this new technology, and this is actually what makes it superior in many ways. This is why we don't need the oversight that's often needed in traditional finance, because it's so much more transparent than anything people are used to seeing. We're used to having all these committees and people make decisions and no one can audit it. No one can audit the Fed. No one can understand the balance. It's a man behind the curtain or men and women behind the curtain operation, where these new blockchains and stable coins and protocols are built on having to convince people they're better because they're more transparent and their tokenomics are more sound and superior. So this is just a great example of what blockchain has to offer. Oh, really? A2, A3.
Should we maybe wrap it up with the Wise token story?
I say we go a little bit over. We can power through. We can power through some stuff. Yeah. Let's
power through.
This is such a great time in the market. We got some stuff to cover. Let's cover it, and we can move fast through some of this stuff. But it's really about the regulation, and people learning about this need to speak out, and we're all in this together. Legislators, senators, they're just men and women. There are uncles, there are stepdads, our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, mothers. They're us going to work and trying to do their jobs the best they can. So it's incumbent upon us, their fellow brothers and sisters, to explain to them where they may not see what's happening 100%, so they can kind of steer the ship a little bit better. If you see that there's an iceberg ahead, you want to say, hey, watch out, brother. And right now, it seems like by looking at these bills being passed, a lot of decisions are being made by people operating a ship in the fog and don't really understand what's going on. So that's why it's good to have a lot
and
of...
to that, I just saw a article that just crossed over my computer saying that agreement to exclude some of the non-brokers from broker status has been reached, and it's I believe Rob Portman from Ohio is announcing that some kind of compromise has been reached to exclude non-brokers. So for now, we have good news.
There is that, but because of Senator Shelby, we won't really know what's going on until tomorrow, because he's holding up the vote currently because he didn't get his military spending.
Military amendment, yeah.
And so if you would like to call him, his DC office phone number is 202-224-5744. I highly recommend giving him a call, just letting him know, hey, you're affecting this space in a very large way, and you're going to be losing your opportunity to be reelected because your constituents don't want that. People care.
Yeah, that's the message.
This is a different number I pulled up thinking it was going to be that, but it's not. Real quick, you guys, HP and F NFT, unique method to discover liquidity and more accurate valuation. What's the word on this, Jacob?
I shared this one.
Oh, you did? Pardon me.
Yep.
Jacob's like, don't throw me on the spot. I don't know.
Okay, so this is about, if you scroll down, they talk about a way to value and to make use of NFTs through fractionalized NFTs or FNFTs.
Right.
And this is like minting a token that would be like a derivative of the NFT that you have, and it would fractionalize it and allow you to trade it, and then you stake it for liquidity, various things. And this would help price discovery, because a lot of these NFTs are very expensive, and the whole NFT doesn't trade very often.
Right.
But these fractional shares there'd be a market for them. There's going to be marketplaces, and there's a Horizon protocol is the one that's talking about being the home for trading these fractional NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And the long story short is that this would be kind of like a price discovery mechanism for finding out what are the true prices of these assets that sometimes aren't traded all that often, and in a fractionalized derivative contract could help increase the price discovery. That's the thinking.
I dig it. The more people that are able to become involved in the exchanging, the more we can understand the value that people have in it. It's opening the market up to. Exactly. So very cool there. Now, what you also sent me this, and we thought it was one of those. What's it called when they change the spelling? There's that theory that a lot of the movies and titles and books that we grew up have all had the words slightly change the spelling.
Or some of them at least, like Berenstein Bears.
Yeah, some of them, some of these things. There's a word for
the Mandela effect.
Yeah,
the Mandela effect. Yeah. So I don't know anything about it other than what you that there's a definition of this thing, and I could have sworn that this was Oscar Mayer was Meyer, and that I just got hoodwinked, but Ryan looked it up and said no, it's always been this way.
Always been Mayer. Yeah.
So
I kind of thought of it too. I was like, I think you're right. I think it was Meyer. So we're both misremembering.
I was never. I don't ever remember having Oscar Mayer wieners around the house. I'm really not a huge Oscar Mayer wiener fan. I don't really know enough to say about this one or the other.
But you were a ballpark man growing up.
I don't remember having packaged hot dogs in the house. I don't remember it, man.
Okay, fair enough.
But sure, so ballpark. I remember those.
Oscar Mayer's got some branding they're doing with those.
Well, that's
and here it is.
Now, like, not to think that you're eating hot dogs made of. That just, I don't know. That just seems a little weird to me. Seeing a package of hot dogs with a picture of a
you're right.
with a picture of a dog on the front. I don't know how well this is gonna do. Hopefully, these are just NFTs, right? These are NFTs. They're not.
No. I think I want to say these are
actual hot dogs.
Yeah, one of a kind 10-pack of weenies. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not about NFTs. Yeah, and they auction them for some crazy prices.
Well, you know what they should do then if they're doing this? Maybe they should have like an NFT giveaway for like a Charlie. You know what I was thinking a long time ago? There should be a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of an NFT thing where if someone gets the golden ticket, then they can now have an NFT.
They have that.
They have that?
Oh, really?
They have that. There's actually a couple of projects that are doing something similar to that, and one of them Wise Token is working with. So I'll save to mention.
Is that through Praise? Cool. That's not through Praise, is it?
That's not Praise.
That's huge. Look, today's not the day. We're already over. We got some stuff to cover, but Wise Token, you talk about NFTs and fractionalized NFTs and lending. Well, I know that Wise Token's doing some work on that. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with that, with what's being built on that community in the background. So I'm excited about that. Of course, speaking of being built in the background or in the forefront, Cardano has been a major player in the last, well, I guess for many years now, considering the founder is one of the early Ethereum developers, but it's had a significant run up in the last year, right? With a lot of the development that's taken place and with the Alonzo hard fork and now smart contracts. And oh, here we go. Cardano moves ahead with crucial Alonzo upgrade rollout, kicking off its final purple phase. So if you're familiar with all the names of the phases and what's going on, please let us know in the comments, because I'm not.
Blue and white, now purple.
There we go.
So yeah, and they later on they talk about how it's going to be, I think they're going to be having the final phase, the final launch for the smart contracts to roll out on the mainnet August or early September. So we're getting closer to actual smart contract capability on Cardano,
which will be huge. Because let's look at how's Cardano doing without smart contracts right now? Oh gosh,
very well.
They're number 6 in overall market cap. That's a big deal. Okay, good to know there. So keep an eye on Cardano. That's definitely the blue chip basket. So okay, now Jacob, what's going on? Talk to me about. Is this a Jake thing?
All right. So I actually wanted to bring Jake up a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Toomey Amendment. I just wanted to give a shout out to Jake specifically because he's a lawyer who's been helping educate a lot of these senators and these representatives who quite honestly just don't know about the technology.
Sweet.
And he's gotten no sleep these past 4 days. So thank you, Jake. We appreciate you.
So if you can, pass this around the crypto community, the Reddit community, all the communities that are out there helping to make the world a better place and share information. Jake Chervinsky, give him a follow, give him a like, do that stuff. Because this goes beyond supporting networks or certain blockchains. This is really just about helping share technology and to make the world a better place and to get information out where it needs to be to those people who need the information to make better decisions. So good on you, Jake. Thank you very much, brother. And bada bing, that's it. Let's move on to the next one. HODL pack.
HODL pack is a pack specifically founded to help pick candidates who are pro decentralization and pro cryptocurrency.
That's cool. See, now this is what I think the people should clamor for in whatever jurisdiction. They should clamor for time. This is a brand new technology that has huge ramifications throughout the whole market once it becomes adopted for people. This should be something that this should be an open conversation for a few years for the next elections coming up over the next, over the next decade, over the next 4, 6, 8 years in relative jurisdictions. These should be things that are talked about so that people can come to an understanding of what they think is fair and ethical and equitable. And these HODL packs and other packs can have the opportunity to have, get some legs and to help share information with communities. Because I can imagine what these people are doing is going out and educating people in different communities and jurisdictions so that they can be better informed to make better decisions.
And also funding candidates and lobbying current candidates and the whole political action committee, playbook, right?
And this is a tweet, but actually this is the actual docs.hodlpack. I can't see that. What is that last? Yes. .org. Okay. So, is there anything in particular about the document you wanted to pull out, Jacob, or just to let people know where they can find it?
No, just to let people know where they can find it, let them know that they could donate.
Learn more about it.
Resource, learn more about it,
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Docs.hodlpack.org, and of course your local senators and legislators, all those people you can reach out to and let your family know, hey, this is something that we have to. Red alert. What is it about? Talk to me about this red alert, speaking of.
So basically I had sent that to you guys to help you and help everybody get a way to call their senator. So
here it is.
If you actually type it in, if you scroll up a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, you could type in phone number, zip code of whatever, and they'll actually provide you the nearest lawmaker's office to be able to talk to them about what's going on with crypto. And I think that these resources are massive for us being able to network, because crypto is decentralized. We're everywhere around the world. It's not just here in the United States.
That's a good point.
So fight for the future. I can't read this. I got my little Zoom thing blocking me. If you guys want to tell me the domain, but we're gonna
fightforthefuture.org.
Fightforthefuture.org. Cool. And we're gonna leave links below in the description. But absolutely, this is how you get involved. We'll leave these numbers. Enter your phone number, zip code. Bada bing. Hit the call button. It'll let you know. And what's this? Call now to submit the form above. The Senate will vote on a bill. Okay. Well, that's the little post-mortem, right? That's a little past, but.
It's definitely worthwhile. Contact the lawmakers and tell them how you feel.
Yes.
It's probably more of an impact than I think even voting.
Okay, I know this might seem a little out of place as we wrap it up towards the end, but Lightning Network capacity grows 46% in 2 months. This is huge. This is huge because I think one of those sleeping dragons has been Bitcoin not serving as a foundation for smart contracts, and or the network being too slow for DeFi itself. And now that the Lightning Network is growing, it feels like there's been a lot of good development over on that chain. I know that Taproot, Rootstock, and Taproot. I mean, there are some development protocols that have been working to bring smart contracts and DeFi to Bitcoin for a while. So obviously the Bitcoin network is going to remain proof. That's going to be something that's proof of work. That's a chain that's not moving to proof of stake. And I feel that in the future, there will be a value of having DeFi built off of a proof of work foundation. Is wonderful and as great as proof of stake is, there will still be a need and a value for these proof of work, decentralized proof of work chains.
I feel it potentially is one step more decentralized than proof of stake, right?
Yes.
Because the staking has the potential to reward disproportionately the people who have the most assets to stake, right? And you can say the same thing about mining, that when the hash rate gets too high, that it's only the people who can afford the latest supercomputers or whatever can afford to mine, and people who have the mines and the warehouses have an advantage. But anybody can mine, can get a miner. Not anybody can get 32 ETH.
To speak more on that point too, I think changing the idea of how we look at proof of work, instead of looking at it as a proof of work, maybe a proof of consensus. There's all kinds of different ways that we can just validate.
To describe it.
This technology is in its infancy. We could stumble upon a brand new way to validate that.
Holochain. Holochain might have done that.
This is Matic for Bitcoin. That's what we're talking about, layer 2 solutions. And I feel that I don't know how decentralized these Lightning networks are. I don't know that they are. I think that there probably is going to be some centralization to it. But I think that also we could say that DeFi and Ethereum and smart contracts are driving this as well, because it's showing what people desire and what layers to build on Bitcoin. It's showing the DeFi, the decentralized exchanges, what people are looking to do. So I feel that there's a tug and pull on both sides. I think that the development what we see going on Ethereum is actually helping inspire and point the growth and the development over on layer 2 scaling for Bitcoin. For sure.
Definitely. They'll help each other out.
Yeah. Does anybody know about My Human Pet?
That actually, that was the link to Senator Shelby's, all his phone numbers. I figured I'd just link it to you.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I know I missed one of the tweets, brother, but here's the Peter Van Valkenburg. That's nice.
We ended up actually covering this one pretty early on, where I just wanted to give a shout out to Wyden for being consistent, you know?
Oh, yeah, on the cryptography speech.
Dig it. Very cool.
Back way before crypto was even about to be thought of.
Yeah.
So in a market where people are known for flip-flopping, Senator Wyden is consistent and continuing to be a positive voice for crypto and for technology. Is that about right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And definitely without finally, was it last of all but not least of all? Let's talk about this, which we need to get a video out ASAP and push this with others. But this is a huge opportunity for the Wise token ecosystem. Jacob, you want to talk a little bit about what we got going on here?
Absolutely. So Wise token is doing basically they want to not be registered as a financial security. And in doing so, they need a legal contract with the lawyer to go over and look through Wise token and verify that it is decentralized. And so Wise token had a 50-day auction where they created the price floor at Ethereum, where anybody at all could have donated to the contract. So in doing so, it is decentralized, but it needs that legal opinion letter. Well, the lawyer happened to be the same lawyer who worked on the EOS chain, which is super, super cool because this is a big-time lawyer, notable guy, and all he's asking for is to be paid from the community in a decentralized way using Wise token. And it couldn't be easier. But if you look at the amount that we're donated, we have 4 days left and we haven't broken 50%. We really, really need to get this legal opinion letter. It's for the future of Wise, and it's for our community. I know that some of you may be thinking, well, why would I want to donate my crypto? I want to make some money too doing it. And I understand that feeling. So if you want to donate to the legal opinion letter, but still have some value, go on to OpenSea, and if you could do me a favor, if you could go on to OpenSea for me.
Mm-hmm.
And once we're there, just look up Wise_token.
Wait.
Or maybe it might need to be capitalized.
Let me see what pops up.
Underscore. Yeah,
there it goes. Got it. Here we are. It's all caps. Wise_token, and we've got some. We have some NFTs, some Satoshables.
Satoshables are a trending project on OpenSea, and these have been donated to the Wise team to be able to basically use the profits all towards the legal contract. So if you want to have an asset and still be providing value to the community, this is the way to do it. this is the way for you to flip an NFT and still feel good about yourself for being able to donate to that legal contract.
And so you can buy an NFT. You can buy one of these NFTs through your MetaMask wallet right now, and on OpenSea, click on these wise_token, all caps. And literally, not only are you supporting the cause to help grow value in the community and take it to the next level, but you're actually able to hold on to an NFT in the process, a token for what you've done. And this is a big deal. KuCoin is, now that Binance is going the way of the wind, KuCoin seems to be one of the last vestiges of DeFi that has nothing to do. There's no fiat on ramp, but for cryptocurrency exchanges worldwide, it allows people to exchange, and it would be a huge, huge boon to the Wise token community to have this exposure. Not just the exposure, but to have a write-up in this world of regulation, in this world of all these things happening to cryptos. It would be beautiful to have this opinion letter put out there transparently out in public, so to speak, a public notice on the role that Wise Token has, so that it can continue to grow in a healthy manner without unnecessary burdens. And this is great. So definitely come check out. We'll leave the link before, because it's a weird looking website link. I don't even know how to say that, but we'll title it and leave the link. You connect your MetaMask, and you can donate Wise Token. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's actually the only thing you can donate.
That's what I thought.
It's the only thing that's being accepted.
So I'm going to do a video on this and show you how to do it, and do it ourselves. But don't wait for me. Take your MetaMask wallet, click on Connect MetaMask when you hit the site, and put in your piece, and let your friends know in the community, and let others know. This is a great opportunity for ethics and equitable cryptos to reach out and broaden to more people. KuCoin is great reach worldwide, and Wise Token is just in the beginning of its development. So if we can get this done early, this will be huge. Very cool find, brother. Did we cover pretty much most of the weekly roundup? And I guess the big news was the crypto regulations, right?
Yeah, that's the main story.
But the market's kicking butt in the meantime.
We did it.
Yep.
We did it. Oh my gosh, look at this. Wow. Look at our
Bitcoin is 46 now. Jeez.
Bitcoin's at 46, and Ethereum is 3,150, almost is approaching $3,200. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I love it.
I'm loving all this.
I'm glad we get to close out on a happy note.
Exactly. So I guess until the next time, thank you for your time and your interest in learning about blockchain and cryptocurrency. If there are any projects or questions you want to talk to us, drop a message, drop a line. Don't forget to check out our website to see if we've done anything with it yet at wisebeyondbitcoin.com, as we hope to get these edits in soon to make it a little more functional. But in the meantime, we've got crypto metrics, crypto news, and a breakdown of some of the different cryptos out there and how to best store it, Trezor, Ledger, and other wallets. So yeah, subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like. We really appreciate sending us that good love back. And I'm going to say until the next time, have a beautiful day and namaste. I'll let you guys say your piece.
Thanks for spending your Monday evening hanging out with us. See you next week. Thank you.
Until next time, stay wise.
Dude, that was a good stream, y'all.